Today, we remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as an American leader in the fight for civil rights and equality. In 1960, Dr. King visited Portland, Oregon. Among the many things King said on that trip, he told an audience, Americans must rise above the narrow confines of their individualistic concerns to the broader concerns on all humanity. In the past few years, Southern Oregon has come together to celebrate Dr. King and his message of nonviolent revolution. In 2021, we encourage the Rogue Valley to read Dr. King's Why We Can't Wait, his book detailing the Negro Revolution and the nonviolent strategies used by protesters in Birmingham. In 2022, we looked into the future, raising the voices of children in our region. Children who will rise to challenge of looking at the concerns of all Americans if their elders cannot do it themselves. Now, we bring it all together, Dr. King's message and the hope for a future where we look out for all humanity.
Hi, my name is Vance Beach. I'm the founder and director of BASE, which stands for Black Alliance in Social Empowerment. Over the last 3 years, we have had the opportunity to create impactful videos on the teachings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This year, we took to the streets, where we heard from local community members on if the teachings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. are still being applied and followed today. We're also honored to hear from Dr. Geneva Craig. Dr. Craig is an educator, a nurse, and more importantly, a lifelong activist, and one who was directly connected with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Selma, Alabama. We urge every single person as you watch this video to think about, are you following the teachings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and what do you plan to do next?
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Geneva Craig. I obtained my first nursing degree way back in the 70s, because I'm not going to tell you my age. I had promised my mother that I would be continually learning. Now, that's about my educational journey. Part of it, because we haven't talked about before, those years before, the struggles that I had to go through.
It's much easier to integrate a lunch counter than it is to guarantee an annual income, for instance, to get rid of poverty for Negroes and all poor people. It's much easier to integrate a bus than it is to make genuine integration a reality and quality education a reality in our schools.
How would you describe Dr. King, Martin Luther King, or his work?
I mean, at the end of the day, he just wanted a world where everybody's doing their thing peacefully. There's no hate, and everybody's just fighting. He would just hate to be living right now.
But I feel like Martin Luther King was more like he showed us that we could, basically. That it ain't just because you black, I mean you can't. You feel me? So that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
What that man did for the black community and the legislation he got passed through, we wouldn't be where we are today without his great efforts. And we are here. You're here talking to me because of Dr. King, right? Because of the work he did.
My feeling is that Dr. Martin Luther King is one of the greatest individuals that's ever lived.
Freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. What does this mean to you?
People are largely self-referential. If you have a system that's working for you, you might not think about the fact that it doesn't work for someone else.
I know about Emmett Till. I'm learning about some of my family history. I was PO'd by the time I was a teenager. Very angry and generalizing. That's what I caution people against today. Don't generalize. It can get you in a lot of trouble. But I generalized against whites. Look at the signs. What are they telling me? I am not worthy. And my friends who were angry also, we were like, what can we do? Because of course the old people are not doing nothing we see. But by the time we had come up with a plan of doing our own march, Dr. King's disciples had descended upon Selma, Alabama. We learned that the best way to go about this, nonviolence. He gave the message, the lessons to be taught to us, to the people we called his disciples. He had made sure that they knew his teachings. The teachings that he wrote in this book. Why we can't wait. There's so many things that a person or groups of people can do other than getting guns. The way is, as Dr. King outlined, you make a plan and you make sure that you get a good education so that you can use what has been created by this world to make changes.
Because you're going to be the ones that carry on the work. In fact, in this book, you'll find them talk about something called the Children's March. And that is all about kids your age coming together and making a difference. Going to jail. Kids as young as 4 years old went to jail so that they could make a difference and make things right for people like you now.
Can you describe what that man meant, what he means, what his ideology meant?
Black equality period.
He probably would be in shambles. He probably would just be like, all this work, and it just seems like instead of going forward, we're going backwards. So I feel like he probably would be like, we have lots of work to do. We need people to be aware of like their own like faults, you know, their own prejudices, biases, and we just all need to like come together and like make this change because, you know, one person can't do it on their own.
If he came back to see so hard what he worked for, how it's a mock, it's a laughing stock. I don't know, maybe I need to be open, more minded, or I don't know, because I'm not gonna say I'm right, I'm not gonna say I'm wrong, but it's not just by Caucasian people, it's by my own people too, you get what I'm saying? And they the ones that go the hardest because they feel that they have to show out in front of this person to prove something, and that's sad.
I was told my place so many times on my trek to getting my nursing degree. I lost count. People telling me, and I know you know your place. And in my mind, I'm going, and where is that? Dr. King, like he said, we've waited 300 years since we've been free. And look at us now. We have to beg for jobs. We have to live in shanties. We don't have enough good food to eat. When is the right time? Have we waited long enough? And he could feel the tension boiling over. The riots that happened around the country. Yeah, the time was right then, and the time is right now. We're just dealing with different players.
The culture of that is starting to change. You know, some white body people are they're feeling the outrage, they're feeling the outcry, and they're stepping up to be vocal and loud about it too. They realize that this is our community, all of us collectively, and what's good for Black and Indigenous and other people of color is good for them too.
Well, I talked a little bit about courage, and one of the things that always strikes me about Dr. King is how courageous he was. He's an incredible writer and thinker, and his vision of seeing who we can be, I always walk away inspired and wanting to be better because of the words that he wrote.
When you think about somebody like Martin Luther King?
I mean, it's the foundation, you know what I mean? Somebody has to lay the
paved way, you know what I mean? So that's what he did. He put his life out on the line. He gave his life to give us opportunity.
Well, he's a great man. He's a great man. What he stood for, I don't think anybody can compare. I've actually got the privilege of meeting Nelson Mandela, and he just wanted the best for his people. And I think Martin Luther King Jr. wanted the same.
Yeah.
I would describe Martin Luther King as that's a symbol of love. I look up to, a lot of black kings that have come, Malcolm, W.E.B., you feel me? And I see him, and it's like, I don't think anybody embodied love the way that he did. I think that any place is better when we can all carry those same, characteristic traits of just love and caring for each other and supporting each other. I heard some stories about what, this place was 50, 60 years ago. So they've come a long way, but they got to stay proactive. Don't get comfortable with just being, okay, everything is, people feel equal. You don't know what the next person is feeling and experiencing. Anybody can make a change. Anybody can make a difference, just by taking those steps of, kindness and respect. And I think that we could do something special out here.
That's dope.
What's the most powerful thing in this country? We have the power of the vote. My parents and relatives were paying taxes, and the taxes supported the parks that we weren't allowed to go to. The taxes supported the salary of the policemen that we feared. Access to better jobs, making money where you could live decently. The vote is power. The tactics that have been in place over the years, from the time before I was born, all the way up to now, should be enough to tell you the importance of voting, and voting with some education. Know what you're voting for and what it entails, and holding the politicians accountable for the promises they've made. And if they don't, get them out of office and put somebody else in.
In your studies of Martin Luther King and what you've seen and read, how do you think our current climate is?
He'd be pretty satisfied, but he'd still say there's a lot more to be done because racism and discrimination is still a thing, and that's what we're trying to change.
We're coming to ask America to be true to the huge promissory note that it signed years ago. Coming to engage in dramatic, non-violent action.
To fight back does not mean you have to go to physical blows or take a physical action in the sense of harming someone else to protect your body. We were given a strong message to America and to the world. And believe me, that the videos that were able to get out, what did that do for the civil rights movement? It let people know that the blacks in Selma, in Alabama, were tired. They were fed up. They needed to make a statement to the people in Selma and around the world. No more. No more. It is time for a change, and the time to start is now. So, nonviolence does not mean ineffective. It does not mean you're passive. Oh, and if you really want to know what it means, go back to the book.
In a few words, how would you describe someone like Martin Luther King to somebody that just doesn't know who he is?
He was a person of heart that tried to help others and make the change that needed to be done in that time. And I would say read about him because there is a lot to learn from what he did. I think there is still work to do, but I think he'll say good job for what has been done.
No, to me, he was a great man indeed, and I really acknowledge his what he did for us.
I'll tell you one thing for sure. There is no words to describe King. He was a great leader. He is just what the people need. Actually, I'm sorry that he's gone because it is what the people need now. But let's say like this, he would be still marching, trying to get people rights. When you put somebody down, it's because you're ignorant or you want to build yourself up.
So, would I do it again? Yeah. Would I be fearful? Yeah. But it's not about me now. So, if I die, I die. I've had a wonderful life. Struggles? Yeah, a lot of struggles. Some would say more than my share. But I don't focus on that. I focus on the joy of my life and what I can do to help others.
Somewhere we must come to see that social progress never rolls in on the wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts and the persistent work of dedicated individuals, and without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the primitive forces of social stagnation.
He'd probably say, so you chose to come to Southern Oregon after reading all the history in Southern Oregon. And I would say, yes, Dr. King, I chose to come to Southern Oregon. I said, but Southern Oregon is in its growth period. It is in its period of change. And Dr. King, they need me here. And Dr. King would say, yeah, Craig, they certainly do need you there. And I can see the progress that's being made in Southern Oregon.
Thank you everyone for watching this presentation on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And thank you to Dr. Geneva Craig for your lifelong work in activism. Please stay tuned to watch her full raw interview where she talks more about her personal story, Bloody Sunday, and all the sacrifices that she had to go through to help create better communities for all of us. And of course, a special thank you to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for his sacrifice and guidance he gave all of us to help create better communities. As he said to Oregonians over 60 years ago, we must learn to live together as brothers or perish as fools.